There was a butterfly on the wall at an East End house. A monarch. A splash of color so rare in the world. Especially so late in the winter. It was welcome in any form. The butterfly took off and landed on Pinky's outstretched hoof. The foals stood behind her, eyeing at the tiny thing. She gently turned and bent down to the foals, careful not to startle the insect. Pumpkin Cake reached forward to pet its wings, and Pinky was quick to pull it away. The butterfly flew off, startled, into the cool night. "You can't pet a butterfly," the mare told the foal. "Why?" "Well, you'll hurt it. Butterfly wings are very weak. You'd remove its ability to fly, even though your intentions are good. In a way, you're taking away its freedom." "Oh, I don't want to hurt it." "I know, honey. Come on, it's almost your bedtime. Your Auntie Twilight gets cranky if foals like you are out past curfew." Pumpkin Cake climbed onto Pinky's back, Pound Cake flying just behind them. The foals were soon tucked into their rickety crib. "You all ready for bed?" "Yes, Auntie," they said in unison. Pinky turned to leave the room, but Pound Cake intercepted her. "Auntie?" "Yes?" "We should go back to the bakery. We were safe there. Maybe Mama and Papa will find us there. We could be happy." The mare froze, recalling the sight of the undead Mr. and Mrs. Cake. She could hear Pumpkin squeak and whimper a little bit. She understood. As much as it broke her heart, she needed to tell her little Pegasus that all could not be well in that matter. "Your mom and dad won't be coming back, and we can't go back to the bakery," she said without turning her head. The foals couldn't see her crying. "Why?" Pound asked, his voice quivering. Pinky bit her lip, sniffling and wiping a pantheon of tears from her eyes. "Mommy and Daddy won't come back. They can't care for you or love you anymore. They're gone. They're dead." Poundcake was silent after that. Pinky galloped over to the crib, only to find that he was crying harder than she had ever seen him do so. Pumpkin was pretending to sleep, but Pinky sensed a terrible mix of sadness, of closure, within the filly. The mare swept the colt from his place. "They didn't know what was going on, little one. None of us did. And your mommy and daddy just got unlucky." Poundcake buried his head in Pinky's chest, whimpering and letting his cries slip away from his muzzle. "Hey now, I promised them I would take care of you when they're gone. While no pony could predict how far the world would go, that was a Pinky promise. Just because it's gotten difficult, I'll never leave you. And I'd go through herds of bad things, if only to keep you and your sister safe." Poundcake peered up at her with wet eyes. "Go to bed. Go to sleep. We're safer here than in the bakery anyway. Okay?" "Okay." With the matter settled and the twins asleep, Pinkie Pie silently stepped out of the door. With some time to herself, the pink mare relaxed into a recliner in her home. With the light of a blazing fire in the hearth, Pinkie began to reread Daring Do and the Ring of Destiny. Despite the redundancy of the book, it made Pinkie nostalgic. She had to wonder if it was like this over the entirety of Equestria. She wondered if Daring was safe in her isolated home, or if she died trying to find and make sure her family was safe. And what of Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy? She knew Applejack was gone. A trotter she couldn't bear, and couldn't afford, to put down. In time, even her worries submitted to exhaustion. Pinkie's eyelids grew heavy, and she fell asleep. The mare awoke when a rolled-up piece of paper landed on her head. Yawning, Pinkie removed the seal. Pinkie. A caravan has been spotted at the north entrance. Recount suggests passengers are heavily armed. Likely nothing they've ever seen. Some of our ponies can check them out. Need your negotiation skills to keep the situation controlled. Twilight. Pinkie sighed. She quietly trotted over to the twins' nursery, making sure they were still asleep, then grabbed a first aid kit. All was well at home, But what was to come of his caravan? It was simple to tell where the disturbance was. A wall of ponies blocked Pinky's view of the intruders, but she could see a line of covered wagons behind them. Pinky could tell that she was needed quick. A barrage of threats and insults was mixed in with guns poised to fire. "Everyone calm down. You're here to rob us. You just said that." "I said we need a contribution to our supply stack. You had guns pointed at us. What should we have expected? Now, you can expect us to fire these guns up your... No. No more. Enough!" Pinky bitterly spat above the voices of the small crowd. All voices stopped. East Enders turned to face her, shock in their faces. They all lowered their firearms and parted to let their mare through. The caravan ponies all had steeled, scarred faces. There was a bit of confusion at the sudden stop of the argument, but their arms did not falter. Pinky lifted her eyes to the front wagon, and in it, Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy. Pinky's jaw dropped, leaving her speechless. Fluttershy saw her in the corner of her eyes. A smile wider than Pinky had ever seen crept across her muzzle, and was quickly followed by tears. When Rainbow did not catch her, Fluttershy caught her attention to her. Shock appeared on her face, followed by a quiet, "Damn." Curfew had been placed by a small, quiet celebration. The rest of the living elements had been found. There was a tiny feast of peaches, Twinkies, and daisies. A meal that was comparable to ambrosia in the local times. Pinky didn't want to join the celebration. No matter how happy she was, she needed to make sure the foals didn't become scared if they woke up without her. She did invite her missing friends to her home, along with instructions on how to get there, and soon enough, Rainbow Dash was knocking on the door. Pinky graciously invited her inside, asked if she wanted to set her flank down for a sober conversation. She said no, and finally sat down to catch up. "Well, if you're going to drink, try not to drink too much. I don't want you too far gone from grace if the foals wake up." You're a mother? You weren't pregnant before this, were you? You certainly weren't showing." Pinky chuckled. "The Cake Twins, not my own." She glanced over to the room. Her soft smile faded from her muzzle. Poundcake only just realized his parents are gone. They were weak. "Excuse me?" "Something I've learned from all this. Every pony who's one of these trotters, is some pony who is too weak to make it in this world, or some pony stupid enough to try and protect the weak." Pinky's jaw fell a little. She looked into Rainbow's eyes and saw she didn't know quite what, but it wasn't the Rainbow she once knew. She looked away. "I must be going crazy. That's Rainbow Dash," she thought. When it all happened, I took them under my wing. I fed them, cared for them. I even got them to East End. They're my foals now. I love them." "Guess they couldn't really have done better. You were pretty motherly beside them. Almost more than the actual mother." We saw them. We found them out in the trotter, found out about the trotter scent that could disguise. That's what got us here. We saw them, trotters in the crowd." After that, there was a long silence. Rainbow glanced around. "So, nice place you got here. Not quite defendable. You'd be surprised. Twilight has kept this place rather orderly and protected. Even so, even if everyone here could wield a gun, do you think this place could hold off a herd of trotters? Or if bandits attacked, would everyone make it through here alive?" Pinky hadn't thought of any of that. "I've tossed the idea to Twilight. She's considering it." "What idea?" "I have a plan to move every East Ender to my group's residence. I have completely fortified the city hall, and plenty of areas around it. It's a strong habitat for anyone. The strong, the weak, even the foals. Twilight wants your opinion before she decides if it's a good idea to move everyone there. Think about it." Pinky stared at the foals' room. She couldn't push aside the feeling that she was agreeing to a deal with Hades. Still, they went. They all went. It was a bumpy ride, but Pinky's tired demeanor was too strong to ignore. She quickly dozed off in her covered wagon. Fluttershy woke her up. She wasn't the same. Even Pinky felt the air of hatred around her. She didn't seem too happy about bringing East End to the camp. "We're here," she said, and abruptly flew off. Setting the lethargic twins on her back, Pinky bounded off the wagon. The first thing she saw was the barrier. It was horrific. 15, maybe 18 feet tall, made of dispatched trotters. There were even some living, though they were harmless, stuck on piles. Rainbow seemed to lavish their presence. She shielded the foal's eyes and continued through an open doorway. "Welcome," Rainbow stated, "to the capital. You'll all be assigned duties that'll be based on your cutie mark. If your marks aren't related to any job, you'll be put to work in the yard. For now, report to the warehouse. There, we will take any new recruits into account." A gruff stallion gestured over to a large building. The various East Enders began to trot over to it. "One more rule," Rainbow called, halting the crowd. "There will be consequences for those who break our rules or can't pull their weight." It was a disturbing sign. Leaving her foals with Fluttershy, Pinky started towards the warehouse, unsure of what was to become of her. Entry 1, November 11th. It's been 2 weeks since East End has transferred to the capital. It hasn't been pleasant, I'll admit that much. Fluttershy gave me this journal, told me it was important to write down everything that happened to me while I'm here. She isn't the same. She's a real downer to be around. She hates Rainbow, but she almost never leaves her side. I said she needs to make sure Rainbow doesn't do anything drastic to survive. I agree with her. Rainbow is corrupt, almost seems like an understatement. I know this more to be traumatized by what's happening. We all are. But some of the things she does to ponies to punish them are beyond questionable. And when Capital foals do something wrong, she brings up Scootaloo. She says they couldn't handle the rules of the place. So instead of taking the reasonable options of seeing some pony about it, she dragged Sweetiebelle and Applebloom away from the place. She says they were too weak. They died. I'm beginning to think that this isn't the Rainbow Dash we knew at the start of this. I was very close to being put to work in the yard, which basically means I am almost put to work capturing live trotters for guard dogs and pulling weeds. The longer I'm here, the more ponies get amputated or killed because they were bitten. Rainbow made sure I became the capital's negotiator. Rarity, a minor, yes, the capital has minors, isn't doing well either. She was with Sweetiebelle at the start of it. Apparently she was hiding something big, and when her sister found out, she left. The poor mare was pretty unnerved when she learned that her sister was dead. I did find out about the secret she was hiding. She called me up to her room one night, and I found her staring at a family album. Rarity's parents had died after the outbreak. Against her intuition, she hid it from Sweetiebelle. She's driving herself to the brink of insanity. How many am I going to lose in this place? Pinky shut the journal. Sleeping foals to her right, window overlooking the yard to her left. She looked through the window. 28 ponies were partially missing limbs. I was almost put out there. Pinky herself had become unnerved by the capital. The other night, Rainbow Dash called her down to the basement, where 3 scared ponies were tied up. One was Inky. Rainbow told her that they tried to escape, so they needed to be made an example of. Pinky watched in horror as 2 of the ponies were shot square in the head. A shotgun at such close range caused quite a splatter. Every head shattered would bathe everyone in the room with blood. Trotter blood, Pinky could handle. But this? This blood belonged to ponies who hadn't done much wrong. Rainbow, she loved the bloodbath, smiling as each victim suffered. Inky was the last one. Rainbow grabbed the gun away from the executioner and tossed it to Pinkie. You are soft, Pinkie Pie. Borderline weak. Kill her. Inky struggled against her binds, screaming, crying like a child who scuffed her knee. She looked into Pinkie's eyes, reducing her cries to a soft whimper. I'm not doing this! Rainbow set her bloodied hoof on Pinkie's faltering shoulder, chilling her friend. Deep down, part of her wanted to aim the gun at Rainbow Dash. She stood there for so long, racked with indecision. After several minutes, Rainbow Dash frowned and grabbed the gun from Pinkie. There was no hesitation, and she smiled. Pinkie froze to her spot, watching her last sister die before her eyes. Rainbow's coat was crimson with blood. Something you need to learn, Pinkie. Killing the weak so the strong could live is part of survival. Part of evolution. These ponies were too weak to stay here. They chose to die. In a way. Pinkie trudged back up the steps, eyes wide and unblinking. She stared at the journal, writing a final thing. The foals aren't safe here. I promised that I wouldn't let that happen. I have to escape. When Pinkie came downstairs for breakfast, she found Twilight and the rest of the elements, except, of course, Rainbow and Applejack. Rarity subtly gestured for Pinkie to join them. The mare's stomach growled, hungry for food, but that could wait. Spread over the table was a map of Ponyville, a circle around the capital representing the Trotter barrier. The herd is coming tonight. Rainbow Dash will be distracted with last-minute preparations. We can escape, but we'll need to take nothing but a few supplies with us. Escape? Pinkie joined the mares at the table. Yeah, escape! She smiled. I'd thought you'd be more reluctant, muttered Rarity. Why would I be more reluctant? This place is worse than the Trotters. They stared blankly at her for a few seconds. No real reason, Twilight whispered. We're ready to go tonight. I've taken one of the wagons and put some necessities within. I've set my alarm clock to 11. Based on my calculations, that'll be just before the herd invades. I'll grab you all, and we should be ready to go. The four mares nodded. 11:02. Fluttershy's alarm went off. She climbed out of her cot. The silent hooves, she walked up the doorway, knocking softly at Twilight's, Rarity's, and Rarity's doors. They responded with soft taps, but Pinkie wasn't there. 11:03. Something the mares couldn't predict. Rainbow having Pinkie for cocktails. Fortunately, Pinkie offered to make one of these cocktails for her. And, instead of just putting in the standard ingredients, Pinkie added a few drops of the sedatives used in the infirmary to the drink. Rainbow was out in a few minutes. Pinkie still needed to grab the twins, but her friends had to have been worried by now. She'd have to check in, get her foals, and get back to the wagon within a few minutes. 11:04. We can't wait for Pinkie too much longer. The herd will be here soon, Fluttershy said. Plumes of winter breath spread from her mouth. She's coming. Just wait a few more... I'm here, Pinkie interrupted Twilight. Ready to go? I'll just need a few more minutes. The twins are in my room. I need to... There was a sudden, acute pain in the back of her head. The world around her blurred and spun, and the ground came up beneath her. Then, everything went black. 11:06. Escape. Successful.